good morning, good day, and good evening. I'm, as always, your host, Brody Robertson, and today, I think we're around episode 241. Eventually, I'll get the number correct. I don't really care enough. I never get it correct anyway. Anyway, today, we have a VTuber on the show. It's been a little bit since we last had someone on. I reckon Ren was the last one we had on. But today, this is someone who is trying to make VTubing easier on Linux because the software's built around Windows and Mac, but you can get the Windows stuff working. So welcome to the show, KYLONEK0. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Linux is pretty good.
So how long have you actually been using Linux for at this point?
So I've been using Linux since March, starting on that laptop I have in my room. And I was like testing out some distros on it. I actually started off on Arch with like Endeavor OS. And then I was like, okay, well, it froze my laptop, so let's try something else. I get on Linux Mint and I'm like, all right, this is the one. Then I start doing a lot of experimenting.
Wait, what brought you to Arch that early? Because I've talked about like my journey plenty of times and like starting on Arch, but I don't usually see most people doing that.
Oh, it's like I was like looking at the distros and I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. Like, because like I'm like getting tired of using Windows with how they're doing that, and I could definitely get into that.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to do that, we can do that.
Oh yeah. But like, I started out on Endeavor because I thought, oh, this is pretty neat. Like, it has like this stuff. I got to try out Wayland on it. I got to try out KDE on it. Then I always felt like something was like a little off with it, especially when the laptop froze. So I was like, I kind of wonder what happened. And this is like, I think I installed it like 2 or 3 times, and I kept somehow breaking something on it. So I was like, what other OS can I use? Like, I don't want to use Ubuntu. It's like it uses snaps and stuff. So I was like, let me try Linux Mint and see what happens with that. And I start using it, and like, oh my god, this is like Windows 7 but better.
That is definitely
without the bullshit.
Yeah, that's definitely the design they go for. For better or worse, right? Like I've talked about like the concern of doing something too Windows-like for someone who's new to Linux, because you can fall into the trap of thinking it is Windows, like especially in the cases where people, install Linux for someone else. It's obviously different if you do it for your own system, but you'll see people online be like, I installed Linux for my parents' computer, and it's like, if you put Mint or Zorin, like, it looks Windowsy, and I get that like people might feel familiar with it, but there's things they might try to do that don't work, and then you're gonna have to deal with more tech support, and just don't be tech support for your family. It's not worth the effort.
Oh yeah. So like, I've actually used Linux way before then, but I wasn't like really daily driving it. Like, that's when I started to daily drive it. Like, all the way back when I was in middle school. I somehow mounted a Zorin OS ISO, because I didn't know what it was, onto my sister's computer, and I installed it via Power ISO, and it just installed, and I'm like, oh, like, and then she was like, what happened to my Windows? It's like, it's different now.
Did you nuke the data on it, or was that safe?
Everything was gone.
Okay, that's the real concern.
Yeah, but she used it after all. She said it was okay to watch YouTube videos on back then. And then before that, it was like when I was in like community college, I was like trying out Ubuntu just to see what it was. And this was like back in 2016. This was like old Ubuntu stuff. And I was just like, I'm not vibing with this one right now. But then like
do you know what version that was?
Oh, I think it was. Actually, I don't remember what version it was. It was very old though.
Okay.
I remember a purple screen and maybe an animal on it, but they all have the same thing.
Okay, no, if it's purple, it's got to be, I think it's got to be post like 16, 17, something like that. Because there was a period where everything was brown, then everything was orange, and now everything's purple. But I don't remember when they swapped to purple.
Interesting.
It's an old version, but it's not like, you're not talking like warty warthog old.
Oh no. It's not like you're trying to go into distro C and then you go into the DE called sugar.
Oh god, that's a D that exists. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was laughing my ass off when that was happening. When Vinny showed me that.
Let's see if I can find a picture of it. Because I imagine there's a lot of people that don't. Oh right, there's a Fedora spin of Sugar. I forgot about that.
It's on Trisquel Linux. Pick Sugar, and then you'll just and then there you go.
Okay,
that's all
sure.
you get. Yeah.
Honestly, I should do like a proper video on Sugar at some point.
Oh yeah,
that'd be funny.
It's very different, and I wasn't expecting what I was looking at. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Look, I'm sure it's fine for the people that use it, maybe, or like the use case it has, but I don't know. Maybe
Linux has some funny stuff going on behind the scenes. Everybody's like Cinnamon, Pop OS, Cosmic, and then KDE, but we don't know anybody who uses Sugar yet, and we should be afraid.
Honestly, I'm sure there's one person in my audience that actually uses it. I've seen there's people who've been like, yeah, I use like TWM, which is a window manager from the 90s, and it hasn't been updated since about the 90s.
Well, yeah, as long as it's stable and it works, that's all that matters, really.
Yeah, I'm surprised, but you know, Xorg's pretty much solid. So as long as you can,
that's what I use.
As long as you can compile it and like your C compiler doesn't break it, you're probably gonna be fine.
Yeah.
But I kind of sidetracked you there. You were talking about Ubuntu, one of the purple versions.
Oh yeah, it was one of the purple versions back then, and I was like, oh, this kind of isn't my thing. I was just using Windows from that point on for like, well, it's like 7 Ultimate, Windows 10, but then like when Windows 11 was coming out, I noticed that they were releasing a thing called Recall, and the first thing I do is when I see it, I quote tweet it like, "This is spyware. I don't want spyware."
Yeah, I felt pretty much the same way.
And then there was like some YouTubes recently starting to circulate, which is something that I had a theory on, to where Windows was actually screwing with updates to make it as if they were actually taking away updates in that point, where it was causing your computer to become less stable. And I was noticing that because I was like, my computer was flipping out after it updated once. I was like, what's going on with this? So I was like, you know what? I don't want to wait until October. I'm going to install Linux Mint on my main system. Because by then, I think it was like April into May. By then, I was like getting everything going. So I've already like ended up experimenting with it. And by the time I had it all going and I had it going right, I started to think about like, okay, well, I got all this information from all these different sources. Why wasn't it all not in one spot? And then I started writing a guide. And it got very interesting from there.
So what was it about Mint that grabbed you? Because obviously there's a ton of other distros. Like if you go from Arch to basically anything, it's going to feel a lot, easier to do things. But like, obviously there's like the Windowsy look to Cinnamon, but was there anything else to it?
Yeah. One of the main things is like, unlike using like a distribution like Ubuntu, like if you use Ubuntu, that's fine if it's good for your use case. But since I like to use Mint, I notice a lot of these websites, whenever they are like sending out, like making an app like Fightcade, for example, they're not going to give you an AUR package. Somebody else is going to have to make that.
Right.
And maybe, I don't know what the deal with the Fedora is, but that might be similar. But the official people will either supply a flat pack, which works on all distros, at least are modern, or they'll supply you with an app image. And these sites that do that make it more compatible for people to use computers like that don't already have it figured out via the AUR or whatever Fedora is using, as far as like DNF packages go. Yeah.
With Fedora, they do have a thing called Copper, which is like it's sort of a mix of AUR and PPAs from Ubuntu, where people make like it's users that make the package like the AUR, but you get to build the package on Fedora's infrastructure, so it's not being built locally. So it's a little bit different, but it serves pretty much the same purpose. And then Ubuntu, if we were talking like 5 or so years ago, PPAs were a lot more popular for distributing like packages like this. Like there was a time where if you wanted to use Wine on Ubuntu and have an up-to-date version, you would get it from the Wine PPA. I think they've moved it now to something else, but yeah, like that was the way you would do it then. But other systems have come across which are more like universal, so it makes more sense for things to just be using those instead.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because like when I was trying to install a game called Wargus, which is basically like a decompiled Warcraft 1,
Ah.
it said to use the PPA for your system, and I was
Mhm,
like, "What? This won't work on this system. I'm
mhm,
using Ubuntu Noble as technically."
mhm,
So I'm just like, all right, what do I do? Is like I could decompile it. I eventually just was like, okay, I'm just gonna download the mod for Warcraft 3 and just do it that way.
mhm, mhm,
Play Warcraft 1 through that. I am kind of interested in using Fedora, which
mhm,
is why I have an extra computer, which I did talk about
mhm,
before, in your Discord.
mhm,
That I was gonna do that once I got all that figured out to have like a living room PC or something.
mhm, mhm,
But like, yeah, that does seem a little interesting to me. But like right now, like as far as like daily driving goes, like Linux Mint is just what I'm using,
mhm.
and it's what I used to write the guide after I got it all done too. I am kind of glad I ended up getting help with it because when I wrote the guide, it wasn't exactly grammatically correct, and then Rogrin sort of helped me with that,
Yeah,
which was
that's
pretty cool.
not exactly grammatically correct is one way to put it. Like,
Yeah.
I read through it, and I like by the time I got to the end, I was honestly considering doing my own like pull request on it to fix it. But I'm happy that Ren was working
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, I still don't know how to like properly merge a fork, but I did give Ren contributor credits at the end. What I
Mhm,
did is I like took the fork, grabbed the README file, and just kind of
mhm,
swapped them around, and then it works. So like as long as this is providing the right information at least,
mhm,
and as more technologies ends up getting released, which I do eventually want to start adding stuff for VR chat on there because technically that's a platform that VTubers use,
mhm, mhm,
and there's a thing called ALVR.
mhm,
Um, People may not want to buy a cord or a headset, so I mean, you might want to get an Oculus for that,
mhm.
and maybe an extra battery as like an alternative. And I guess you can have it hooked up to the wall and have it wireless, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I had an ALVR developer on a little while back. It's a really cool project.
Oh yeah.
I don't do VR myself. I don't really have any like use case for it. I kind of get a bit motion sick doing VR. So
Oh
yeah, I can do like what do you call it? Beat Saber and games where
uh-huh.
you kind of stand still and things come towards you, but anything that involves like heavily moving and yeah, I'm just not really good with it. Like some games are
Yeah.
better than others, but like for the most part, like I'm very very sensitive to motion sickness in VR. Not in anything else. Like in a car, in like a roller coaster, nothing like
Yeah.
that. Just VR.
Oh yeah. Like I guess like to get your VTuber legs, get your VR legs, you just start playing VR chat
Mhm,
and like you said, Beat Saber because those are probably the most two common games to play for VR right now.
mhm.
And honestly, like most people who start out on VR usually start out on VR chat,
Right,
and
right,
it's
right.
usually like very it's a lot different than it was a while ago. You don't see a whole bunch of knuckles start going. Do you know the way?
Mhm, mhm,
But like, it's definitely still fun to do as
mhm,
long as like you have that technology to do it. And some people like Zentrea or Fillion, for example, they use VR.
mhm,
Well, I hope eventually once it gets to the point to where people start getting more on Linux. Because right now, from looking at from the market share, Windows is losing a lot of people. Like, well, it's exaggerated, but a lot of people like there's like a good chunk of people that are like leaving that, and
mhm,
they're either going into the Mac, whatever the unknown OS is, which I guess they're still sorting that out,
mhm.
and then Linux, because Linux, like I think like a couple weeks ago, went from 4.45 to 4.55. So I
On
mean
was that
that's
on like the OS market share? No, like
yeah, it's the market share website.
yeah, like those numbers.
Yeah,
I'm
they're not
always
like exact.
that you don't really have good numbers. That's the thing, right? Like
Yeah, that's
you can look
yeah.
at Steam hardware survey, you can look at this, and you can make some like rough estimates. I guess you can't really use them to indicate the absolute percentage, but you can use them to indicate a trend, and it seems like they're trending upwards.
Oh yeah, because people are like getting more into it because they're like, oh, the Steam Deck can do this because the Steam's starting to become more mainstream. You're starting to see the Steam Deck appear in stores now. People
Mhm,
can just buy that.
mhm,
You can go to GameStop and get it
mhm.
now. Like it's
That
starting
would
to
be
become
nice.
more of a thing to where Valve is like at least inadvertently applying this Linux environment, because I think when they were originally making their Steam machines, they didn't want to pay Windows anyways, which is why they made Steam OS 1 and 2.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when they did eventually do that, they perfected it in a way with the Steam Deck. I'm surprised they haven't released Steam machines with the Steam Deck on it yet, which I feel like is going to happen at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be Alienware branded, it's just going to be Steam branded because they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, more people are going to be more inclined to do that, especially when the PS5 is like $700.
Yeah, the PS5 Pro is very, very rough.
Oh, that's fucking rough right there.
I think you can buy a Steam, like the bottom end Steam Deck and a Switch for the same price.
Do 79 used or whenever they have it on sale, which you can get. There's two ways to get a used Switch when they have a sale, or they also have a separate site where, I mean, not a Switch, but a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
But look, with the Steam Deck, they also have a separate site for refurbished consoles. That includes the older models and the newer models. So it's a really good deal, and I suggest like anybody who's wanting to get into Linux, just to play the games if they're into that, to try that. To at least get their foot in the door, and it seems like a lot of people are liking it a lot because I don't see too many people like install Windows on it.
Yeah, you have like YouTubers doing it just to show that it can be done.
I mean, you could technically install MS-DOS on it. I mean, it just takes time to kind of go through that, you know?
Yeah, I like most people aren't really using. There's certain games that won't work on the Steam Deck. And actually, did you hear something that happened very recently? Like, I think yesterday. GTA 5, they decided to fix the hackers problem in multiplayer by putting in BattleEye and not enabling the Linux support.
That's crazy.
Yeah, which means it's probably going to happen in GTA 6 as well, which is, yeah, very good.
Yeah, but 95% of the games don't do that. So Proton DB OP.
Yeah, you pretty much the only things you get that don't like absolutely don't work are like your competitive shooters, which to be fair, I don't exactly want to play something like Warzone, Rainbow Six Siege, things like that on a Steam Deck. Now, obviously, games like Genshin are a problem, and that is something you probably would want to play on it. Now, there are ways you can get it to work that,
I know.
Universe does not exactly like to know this. Yes, there are ways it can be done. I wish they would enable proper support, but games like Fortnite as well, like that's a game that a lot of people play on mobile anyway, so you'd probably want to play it on something like that. But if you're not a competitive shooter player, like most other things are pretty much good at this point. Regarding the Steam machines, like the reason why Valve initially made those is that was around the time of Windows 8, where like the Microsoft Store was first becoming a thing, and they were kind of worried it would become kind of like the Apple ecosystem, where, you know, on the mobile devices, you need to get things through the store, and it's very like heavily encouraged to get things through the store on the desktop as well. And they were kind of worried the same thing would happen on Windows. And I get why they were worried. I'm very happy that Valve has been like very heavily invested in Linux for a long time now.
And it definitely has like a ripple effect, because when they started to release their Proton to like make it better, because before they did have like an early stage at some point. I don't even think it was called Proton, but they were like making it and they released it, and then, you know, it started to make stuff like Vtubing on Linux more possible. Like after it like started to go down there, that like in that way. Like I'm running, like I don't even think I've updated it yet, but I'm like running GE Proton 9-11 to run VTube Studio right now. I'm using an IP config file to run it through my assets folder, and I'm using a face tracker Flatpak, which didn't come out too long ago. It's actually been out for maybe a couple months. Thank goodness. I didn't want to like have to go through terminal to do that. It just does it automatically, and it works how it's intended to, which is really cool.
So I guess we probably should talk about the VTuber guide. Do I have the link up here? Yes, I do. Okay, so before we actually talk about the guide, just random question: why is it on Codeberg?
Because GitHub is ass.
Fair.
And the reason why I say that is because I tried to create it. I tried to like make it visible, and this wouldn't make it visible. And I'm like, what's going on with this? I just want to put it out here.
But what do you mean make it visible?
I didn't understand how GitHub worked.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So I was like, I'll try Codeberg, and I'm like, oh, this makes much more sense.
I don't think I've ever actually used Codeberg, but there's nothing wrong with it. Like at
Oh
the end of the
yeah,
day, like GitHub, GitLab, SourceHut,
they can
Gitty,
all interface with each other.
yeah, it's all Git like
Yeah,
underneath, and they're all like
yeah,
pretty much similar enough interfaces. Like yeah, I know like the if you're a company and you need all of like the CI/CD stuff, yeah, sure they're different, but like
oh
if
yeah,
literally all you're doing is git push, git pull, it's fine. It's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. I just didn't understand how GitHub worked because I was just like, oh, this is frustrating. Let me try this other thing Ren told me about. Oh, Codeberg. This actually works. Holy crap.
Okay, so this
Yeah.
guide is is quite a bit quite a bit to the guide.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so where do we begin? What should we begin with?
Honestly, like when it comes to this guide, it's basically breaking it down to where like you're beginning to like, oh, I want to VTube on Linux.
Mhm,
What do I do? Well, let me go ahead and start by using this guide. That way, it will then give me a good reference or point of reference to where I can actually start and going. And to be fair, like if I didn't start using Linux, Vinny wouldn't be either.
mhm, mhm,
Like because Vinny started using Arch like after I got done with like making the guide and everything, which is amazing because it shows that the guide has some influence on that.
mhm,
So like when I started to like get this all set up, I was like, okay, I need to make this super simple because a lot of things are not very simple on Linux and people will get frustrated really fast. I need
mhm,
to have images, which I haven't like updated the wording on the PDFs or even the copy of the document file,
mhm,
but it does have the visuals on what you can be doing for that. That way you're not going to run into any issues. And if you
mhm,
do run into issues, they're going to be very minimal in comparison to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing.
mhm,
Because all this information that's on the document is either information that I had taken time to experiment with,
mhm.
or is stuff that I found on the internet that was all spread out. Because that's the issue with trying the VTube on Linux. It's all spread out and it's not
Mhm.
in one spot. It needs to
Right.
be in one spot, or it needs to be all linked together in like a web link or whatever. Like WebRings, kind of like how NeoCities does it.
Mhm.
That way, it continue to give you that point of reference. That way, you're not running into any more problems with everything.
Right. I was gonna
Um,
ask you like
mhm.
what existed already out there? Like how much of the stuff did you just work out for yourself? How much had already existed but was just like disconnected content and yeah, just
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So basically, like a lot of the stuff that was like disconnected was like Ren sort of helped with like the whole Denchi soft thing
Mhm,
because that worked out well, and that sort of like you had Ren's guides, you had other people's guides as well. You had these programs that were recommended. Like it's like it's not in one place, and stuff like needing to get like Luitris
mhm,
as well as like VTS Pog Mix It Up. These programs that do work on Linux through these compatibility layers in order to actually make them possible for working because a lot of the stuff's just spread out between a lot of these different VTubers who have these videos.
mhm, mhm,
Like I think when I was like pulling it out when I was like finalizing the guide, I saw something about V Magic Mirror where Cybercon made something.
mhm,
Well, that has a good possibility of working on Linux.
mhm,
And same thing with 3D VTuber. Robo and Tux Guides is the one who made VTuber Tracker.
mhm,
I want to give people credit where credit is due, but I also want it to all be in one spot. That way people can go, oh, I could find it here.
mhm, mhm.
Oh, that's easy. Oh, I got it installed. Oh, it works. Oh my God, I can use Linux. Stuff like that. And like one of the main barriers with trying to VTube on Linux is people, as you said before, like people might eventually start thinking that it's Windows. Well, it's not Windows. Windows does things very straightforward that way because they assume that the consumer doesn't know what they're doing.
Mhm,
Um, when you're using like a simple to use distro, you sort of have to like experiment with it a little bit before you could start like to get into it. And
mhm,
a lot of these people, when they do eventually get tired of using Windows 11, because there's going to be at least a decent chunk of them, they might move over to Linux or Mac or whatever.
mhm,
But let's hope they move to Linux. And if they choose a distribution that they like, then they should be able to start using this guide if they're a VTuber,
mhm.
and it will definitely give them that good way of getting the job done. That's why like it's all broken down. Like here are all your prerequisites. Here are what you need or what you might need. 3D VTubing is possible on Linux. 2D VTubing is possible on Linux. There is a thing for video tube for the PNG tubing, which I should add to this list because I haven't done it yet. Because I've been using it a couple streams. But like there's a lot of things that just works if you're willing to go through the guide and actually go through that hoop. Like the main hoop is just like just going on Linux in general, but like just trying to get it all taken care of with like the getting your choosing your distribution, because a lot of people have like this decision paralysis and like what distribution should I choose. Just choose the one that you're comfortable with, that you feel like is easier enough to use for you. And then when you're going through this, what you would do is you'd start out with the prerequisites. You would go through like the whole starting out on Linux. There's definitely general information on installing your distribution. Make sure you're backing up all your stuff, because you will lose it when you reinstall when you install Linux on your drive, because there's going to be a lot of like maybe some people want to keep their VTuber files. They don't have it all backed up to Google Drive, which they probably should. You're going to want to keep that backed up, because it's not going to be like Windows to where I could just plug this NTFS drive in. No, it's not. You need to make sure the drive is and at least ext4 or in a compatible Linux drive.
You can technically do NTFS, but this is a lot it's extra work to get that working.
NTFS is very let's just say when I was trying out Linux Mint, I was trying to install FF14 on a NTFS drive, and it kept refusing to work. ext4 has worked the best for me so far.
Yeah.
Some people use BRTFS and other formats. The easiest way, because usually the recommended one is the ext4.
Yeah, ext4 has been the standard for a very long time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, some new I think distros like Fedora, I don't know about Ubuntu, but Fedora definitely is using Btrfs by default. I know like the Red Hat stuff, they use like XFS, I think, or maybe it is Btrfs. But yeah, ext4, like the ext line has been basically the standard Linux file system since pretty much ext1.
Yeah,
for better or worse. It's not a great file. There's issues with ext4, like it doesn't have snapshotting, things like that, but
yeah,
as like a general, it works, it's solid enough. ext4 is fine. Also, it's fast.
It just works.
It just works for the most part.
Yeah, unless something crazy happens. But
the lack of snapshotting is a problem. But
yeah,
just
and a lot of these things, they like to get these programs to work between like Bottles, Luitress, Steam. You're gonna need something like you're gonna have to download Proton, of course. I probably recommend downloading Proton 9, 8, and 7 because they're the most common ones. 7 specifically for Halo. Usually the GE Proton 9s, like the more up-to-date ones, will work with like VTubing software as well. If you get something like Proton Plus, you can install multiple installs on different like programs, or they might even share the install depending on how you have your system configured. And in order to actually get these programs running, you have to have it on something like some sort of like GE Proton or Wine GE in like VTS Pog's case, or I mean, it will still work on GE Proton, but doing that, like it just makes things it makes things easier and possible, because if you don't have it like that, nothing's going to work. And Proton's basically the thing that's like sort of holding everything together as far as like these proprietary programs, which is a big issue because there isn't a native VTubing. Okay, I'm going to rephrase that. There isn't a native VTubing program that is still being worked on, because there's a lot of VTubing programs that were worked on before, like VPut, like the virtual puppet, with like the duck symbol on it, and
is
or
that not being
Anachi
worked on
2D.
anymore?
I don't think it's worked on anymore from what I know. I think I watched the Ren video where Ren said that these were abandoned.
Oh,
yeah,
that's sad.
Yeah, it sucks. Like they do work; they're still available for people to use. I guess in case somebody wants to make a fork of it, which I encourage. Please make a fork of it so people can use it. But I also kind of wish Denchi Soft would hire somebody to make a Linux port of VTube Studio. That way, it's more native with your webcam and stuff like that, instead of having to, go through some extra steps. Now, these extra steps do work, or else I wouldn't be using this right now. But I'm not able to use stuff like there are some takeaways with this kind of stuff as well. Like you're not able to use Spout 2. VTube Studio doesn't like game capture. You could do window capture with a chroma key, which does work, and it's not really an issue. But the only problem is, like, if I were to click on this, it's going to show that. So it's going to show the menus. So that's going to be the main issue with that. If you're going to go through and use like a 3D program like VC Face, that will work with game capture as long as you have your game capture support plug, your game capture like plugins in there like GStreamer and VK capture. As long as you have both of those are installed, you'll then be able to run that through like a launch command. That way you can have it show up, to actually have an actual game capture with transparency for 3D models. I don't know if stuff like V9 would do that, but I think it would have the same effect, because V9 is like a more advanced version of that program, and you can like do more redeems and stuff. So you would then have that possibility as long as it supports transparency.
You brought up another program, Industry 2D. I think you were mentioning just very briefly.
Yeah, Nachi 2D.
Yep. Yeah, that there is a fork that one of the developers from the project is working on. I don't know if it's still actively being developed, though.
Oh.
I'm blanking on the name of the fork. I'll try to find it. Wait, hold up. If we, how do I view forks on GitHub?
I don't know. You think you scroll up and you click where it says fork.
That's the problem.
Yeah, GitHub is not very friendly with me right now.
Shit. How does this stupid website work? Actually, I can create my own fork. There's definitely a way to view forks. Whatever.
To my understanding, when I talked to Ren about this, the documentation is there, but it's not correct and updated, which is frustrating.
Yeah.
Stuff like Anachi 2D would have been like a really good option, but a lot of people, like, as to like the mainstream thing, like VTube Studio is like really mainstream.
Right.
Like the online will still work with this.
Finding I was gonna say finding a rigger who knows how to work with Anachi 2D is also just gonna be very difficult.
It uses like a different file format. It doesn't use like these like the standard file formats where you have to like cut the model up, put it all together, and virtual puppet it. VTuber ventriloquism at its finest. But it does like people are going to want to use the official programs. Like 3D programs, I mean, those are more easier to get to work on Linux because you can run them through bottles, and bottles usually gets those right as long as you choose gaming. I don't really see any use case to choose the application part of it unless you know what you're doing. But just going through the guide is what's going to make a lot of things easier for people than having to search around YouTube, Reddit, or other GitHubs just to try to find where all this stuff is at. Because what's going to happen is they're going to get frustrated, they're going to give up, they're going to reinstall Windows, or they're going to just not use it. It's just like, if they're willing to go through the guide and they're willing to install everything on how what they're able to use for it, and maybe even if they wanted to commit and contribute to the guide as well, I could then add things to the guide as to sort of get like a help with that. Because if we can get like a huge because right now the guide's pretty big, but if the guide can get any bigger than that, then that's going to be like a huge thing, because then it's going to be like all in one place. People are not going to have too many issues. It's going to be in their distribution. They're going to have, it's going to go through Fedora, Arch, or even Ubuntu repositories, with how things go. And, as long as they have these programs available to them, and we can confirm that yes, they do work in some capacity. Like VTS Pog, I didn't think I was able to get that working. I spent like 2 days trying to work it out. I got it working. I made a video on it. I have a video on my YouTube for that. And the only I guess drawback to that is it keeps creating a new audio source, and after a while you have to kind of cut them off or even restart the whole thing. But it still works because I spent the time to like get it to work, show people that it works. It will work with PNG models, live 2D models. It will very likely work with 3D models as long as it can like interface via a port. Which to my understanding now, which I need to add this to the guide as well. The port forwarding issue was actually just through the firewall, because it not only just works on Luatris, it also works on Steam. I can't get it to work on bottles for my life though. Yeah.
Actually, one thing I was curious about is considering just like how big the guide is becoming. Have you considered converting it into like a more like a wiki format rather than just being like one giant text document?
That's what I mean. I thought about stuff like that. If that is something that could be possible later on, that would be great. But then making a wiki, I'd have to like get one of those like wiki sites and then have to go through that, which wouldn't be bad. But for now, I think like the best course of action for this is just to keep it in one guide.
Right.
Until it gets too big and I have to be like, oh, now I have to actually put it somewhere else.
Yeah. No, that's definitely understandable.
Right now it's like it's big, but it's not too big. Like it's got to make sure that people are able to follow these directions very simply, because a lot of people have this stigma that Linux is this hard OS to use. It's not if you spend like at least a couple hours using it. And I'm not talking about like weeks and like literally hours. Like I started using it as my main rig in like less than a month. Prior to me using it on my laptop, we're just experimenting with stuff. It's only hard if you're not willing to try it and stick with it.
Yeah.
One of the things I also suggest is if you want to get anything done, if you're VTubing or even content creating as well, because if you're a content creator, you can still use MixitUp, you can still use VTS Pog. You don't have to be a VTuber to use this. Stick with one OS, because if you go distro hopping, you're going to lose everything. If you don't know how to back everything up, and then it's going to take extra time because you're like, oh no, I was on Fedora last week, now I'm on Arch this week, now I'm going to be on Pop! OS next week. You stick with the one you like, stick and make sure it's stable enough to actually run everything you want it to run, or else you're not going to get anything done. Like I'm having like this every now and then, like people are like, oh, you should probably use Arch. It's like, I don't use Arch, by the way.
Yeah, I don't ever get the distro hopping thing. Like, I understand it for people who use like Linux as more of just, there's a lot of people that use Linux as very much a hobby, right? Where they don't really try to do anything productive on Linux. Like, they're just like, oh, I want to try this out. Shiny thing, shiny thing, shiny thing, shiny thing. But,
which is fine.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. But there are sites that are designed like that, like DistroC, where you can just go hams, like, oh, I want to try this out. Let me see if I like this. Oh, this looks nice. I'll try this maybe, But DistroC doesn't have every OS, which is an issue. It's like being ran in servers that are like far away from here. So, I mean, there are some drawbacks to that, but it does give you an idea of what these distributions look like, because these are probably like some of the more common ones. Because I looked up, how many distributions are there? There's like 2,000 plus.
Now, it's got to be including the ones that are not maintained anymore, surely. Like, there's no way there's that many active.
No, it's including the ones that are not maintained anymore.
Okay. That
that's I looked it up. It's like a general thing I pulled up like a month ago, and then like you just gotta choose the OS that you like the popular OSs. And I recommend at least 4 OSs. I don't recommend just one, because you got to have options, and you got to be able to like, you're not going to be like my friend Vinny, where you go off the rip and start using Arch. Because Vinny's probably used Arch before, and it's, very easy for Vinny to use. But not a lot of people are not going to be able to do that. They're going to get frustrated, and they're going
to... sorry, what I was going to say is, but the fact that Vinny can use it proves that you can do it on Arch as well. It's just going to take a bit more effort.
Oh, yes. Definitely takes more effort. But we're lazy here, so we got to choose an easier OS.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
So the OSs I'd probably recommend, actually it might just be 5 of them, if this other OS seems to come out and be stable enough. I'd probably recommend just, of course, Linux Mint, Pop! OS. I'd recommend Nobara. I'd recommend Endeavor OS, and then Steam OS Hollow whenever it becomes an actual desktop.
Do you have a list of distros on here? I don't think there is one, like on the guide.
me see here.
I see mentions of you using Mint, but I don't think there's actually like a list here.
I mean, of course, it's supposed to give people like a freedom of reference that like you can actually use this on Linux because in grand scheme of things, it's literally all similar stuff. It's just some people are a little bit more protective of their distributions than others.
Sure.
But if get options to like the base things, because a lot of these things are based on Ubuntu, Fedora, and Arch, and they'll all work very much similar unless you're using Manjaro. And it does give you that at least that short list. So, like, I'm not gonna like, I don't think it's like a good idea to list the specific distros because then people are gonna think, oh, this only works on these distros.
Fair enough.
It will work on what it's based on. If you're using Linux Mint, it's based on Ubuntu, or if you use Debian, get the LDM E6 variant. Or if you're using Fedora, like stuff like Bazite, or if you're using stuff like Endeavor, you can use stuff like Arch. There might be a few things here or there depending on how these maintainers of these distributions have things packaged. Like I noticed an issue when I was using Endeavor OS. There was an issue with Python 3. You had to do this extra step to sort of get this going. Which I might, it just really just depends on like what I'm doing with that. But if it wasn't for like Face Tracker coming out, I might have included that. The Face Tracker is via a Flatpak, and Flatpaks work on all of these distributions. So it's much easier for somebody to go, oh, let me install the Flatpak, than, oh, let me go ahead and go through this whole huge ordeal to jump through this whole hoop. I started at 1 p.m., now it's 5 p.m., kind of thing. Rather than, oh, this took me like 10 minutes to do. Like, I don't want people to like be able to get up and running. Like, it's got to be really easy for them.
I was just having a scroll through some parts of the guide just now, and I saw the bit we mentioned UVC compliant capture cards.
Oh yeah.
What I would recommend is, have you ever seen Epos Vox's channel?
Yes.
He has a couple of videos on Linux capture cards. I know you've added like links to other random videos. That might be a really good thing to add in there, just because it's it's difficult to work out what actually is UVC compliant.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, that is a good thing to mention because the only way that I was able to find out certain things were the UVC compliant is if I went to Amazon to look it up because they would just tell you. Like the EVGA XR1 is UVC compliant.
I've got one right now.
Oh yeah, I have one as well. The other one that a lot of people probably don't know about, which is the EasyCap. That's a really old brand name that people know about. Well, they make PCI Express cards. They make 2 different brands, by the way, which is basically the same thing. They make their EasyCat brand, which are PCI Express. Those are all UVC compliant plug-and-play cards. They work. You don't have to buy those expensive cards people advertise. You can also get the PyLink 4 or PyLink 5. Those are also UVC compliant. They plug and play and they work. The only caveat is you have to go through QPW graph and link the audio to your Starship, audio. Which is the only thing. Other than that, it'll just work. I do notice the thing with like my EVGA XR1 where I have to like, if I want to use it via audio, I have to unplug it, plug it up again to refresh it. But other than that, it's not really an issue. And with like the PCI Express card, it just works.
What? That does 1080p 120 recording? What?
They're good. They're good cards. Let me send you a link.
I'm looking at the website right now. What the hell? Okay.
It's really they're cheaper than trying to get those it's like a magic cards.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. It's like it's way cheaper than that because like instead of spending like $100 something, you're spending like 70. And it works. It's basically what I use for my stream. Like my gaming PC is being streamed from my streaming computer through that capture card. And then my consoles are kind of using the EVGA other one, But you see here, PyLink 4 is a good capture card for this kind of stuff.
I don't know if we're recording yet, but we've mentioned at some point the PS5 Pro that there's one good thing that's going to come out of that, and that is more capture cards that support 1080p 120. Because that's sort of like the baseline for what like capture cards generally work with, like whatever consoles do. So by having a console that does that, there's going to be more companies that make capture cards for that range, which is going to bring down the price on the external ones as well, and actually make them easier to find.
to make it more sustainable. I just think a lot of people who were kind of put off by the PS5's price were like, you should probably go buy a Steam Deck.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a stupid device. But for the people that do buy it, it's gonna make capturing it easier.
Yeah.
Oh, so the Pyro Link's kind of like the Elgato Stream Link then. Elgato Cam Link, sorry.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's sort of like the Elgato Cam Link. It's more like the. It's just straight up a capture card. It's just what it is. It's not like the it's not like the Cam Link. I need to find you the specific.
Well, unless
one
there's a different.
At.
The one that I'm seeing is like one input. Unless there's another one that you were actually directing people to.
Oh, I will be doing that.
Because they
find it. Oh, here it is. Okay, so they also they resell these cards too as easy capture cards. It's the same thing.
Okay.
So let me send you this. It's the Live Gamer Raw.
Live Gamer Raw.
Yeah, I mean you have that, and then I think there's another one that's better than that.
That sounds like an Ava Media card.
It's a Live Gamer Raw. You can run it, I think, at like 1080p 60 FPS as well, and then 4K 30 FPS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait, that's the one I found before. Oh, yeah, okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let me see here. Like it's cheaper that way. Let me see if I can go through my purchase history and if I can find another one. Because sometimes they like to hide their capture cards. Why am I not signed in?
Why? Just to make it easy to find them. God, I hadn't heard the name EasyCap in a long time. Like that's a name you would have heard in the real early days of console capture.
Oh, I found it. If you could find these available, they do work. There's actually a whole list of them, but the easy caps right now are probably the easiest ones to get, but it's the same thing. It's the same company.
Right.
Just that PyroLink is like the subsidiary of EasyCap.
Okay.
So I'll send you this link as well because these are good capture cards because they're UVC compliant. And if it's UVC compliant, it's more than likely guaranteed to work.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, you're going to run into an issue that I had with my old AverMedia capture card that the video came in, but the audio was not existent.
Which AverMedia one was it? Because they're very hit and miss. Because I used to have
stopped working. It was the Live Gamer HD. It was the one with the shorter PCIe expressor connections.
Yep.
Yeah,
I had a Live Gamer portable, and that works.
Oh.
That's the Toblerone one.
Yeah, like the smaller one.
Yeah.
Yep. It's one Vinny was using for her streams. But let me see if I can go ahead and send you this link here. It's the Live Gamer 5. I mean, you can probably get PyLink 4s as well for cheap.
Oh, it literally is the same device.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I can dox myself here by showing it? No, I think we're good.
Okay. There's also a site on Pile USA where they are sold a little bit. I mean, they're sold out right now for the Gen 2, but like they do sell these. Pile USA does have these cards available whenever they do, and honestly, I wouldn't bank on it because they're probably gonna just use the easy caps on Amazon, but. They do work, and I do have one, and it does work how it's intended to.
The hell is this website? Why is this some random kid with a megaphone?
I don't know.
Professional megaphones. Wait, how much is a megaphone? This is a random tangent. Wait, how do I even find... Let me buy a megaphone, damn it. $75.99.
Oh, here's a good one.
Okay.
EasyCap Live Gamer Raw, but it doesn't have all the colors to it. It doesn't have like the RGB stuff going. It's like $119, which is still cheaper than a lot of other capture cards. And yeah, it's got that 4K video resolution. You could probably knock it down to 1080p and get 60 out of it. So like, I mean, these are like better options in comparison to whatever these Black Magic cards are. Because those are expensive, and I don't want to spend money on that. Just use EasyCap if you're on Linux. I don't know if Elgato works, but it might. This depends.
Yes. Okay, so Elgato is like Ava Media, where it is very, very
No.
hit and miss. My camera that you're seeing is attached to a cam link. So if you want
Ah.
to do the camera, that's fine. Um,
Oh yeah.
I need to see it. I think it's what there's a couple of very specific devices they have that are UVC.
Yeah.
Elgato, help me choose. No. Let me just see your list. Jesus Christ, Elgato. Why does your website
Most
suck?
webcams happen to be UBC compliant as well, which is a very good
Most.
coincidence. Most, not all though.
Be careful
Some
with
of them might
new
not be.
laptops, especially. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because
This,
there's
the
sorry.
like more than likely some of the cheaper higher okay, they're gonna be like they're still gonna be 1080p, but they're gonna be cheaper than name brand stuff. Like Logitech will work. Logitech's UVC compliant. I
Get a
know that 'cause I have
C920, it
one.
works. There's no issue with it.
Or a 720, those work too.
Yeah.
Or a C7, I think it's like a C710 or whatever. And then you also have like some of these who are like these off-brand ones, which will still work too, that are like 1080p. And they will just work with the computer because they're plug and play. Like usually most of the time, unless it's Saver Media and sometimes Elgato, or depending on how that works out, most of the time, if you get like a plug and play capture card device, it should very well work, but you should verify if it's UVC compliant because that is what works the best on Linux. And your life will be much easier that way because right now I use two PCs to stream. I have a gaming PC that I play my games on, and then I use everything else on my PC below me that that like does everything else that I'm doing here. It's like it's capturing the audio, it's letting me speak through stuff. I'm able to use my VTuber model through this. That way, like I'm not running into any sort of issues when it comes to just like streaming in general, or even just trying to get programs running because by default, I'd be able to get more things running on the stream PC and not have to really worry about any overhead, especially on Linux, because Linux is very, very cool about that. Because instead of like, oh no, why is my CPU 90%? It's just sitting at a good 50% after the stream's going and everything's going there. It's chill. It's doing what it's got to do. And my gaming PC can be like, I could just use ultramagnetic settings now and not worry about it. And it's really good. And even if you only have one PC, you could still do the VTubing stuff. Because when it comes to like installing Linux in general, especially like when you're doing VTubing, depending on the distribution you choose, it's not going to have that big of an install file on your computer in comparison to like Windows doing like 40 gigabytes for no reason. You're gonna probably have about like maybe 4 or 8, depending on like what you're doing and what distribution you're using.
Yeah, something like Ubuntu is going to be one of the biggest. But
oh yeah,
even then, it's not that much.
Yeah, and like Linux Mint's not even that much either. It's just it installs, it works, it does what it needs to do. Pop OS will do the same thing. Like you just gotta choose something you like. You gotta if you're VTubing, I suggest reading the guide. You'll have an easier time because all this information is spread out. It's not in one spot, and you will get confused, frustrated, and you'll wonder, what the heck am I going to do now? Should I reinstall Windows? Well, this is supposed to help curb or at least prevent that sort of thought to pop in your head and go, oh, I can do this. It works. Now, if you do happen to do something through the guide, I mean, it's not guaranteed. We're humans. We have error. You might accidentally skip something if you're not reading it. Rogren did me a solid and reformatted the whole guide for me and made it readable because I guess the thoughts were there, just the mind wasn't. And it's all good now. So it's a better way of comprehending the information than what I was going about, because I kind of, if you were to read the original guide in the PDF file, I was sort of you would think I was schizophrenic when you're reading that. So like it's very straightforward. It's very good to like get that stuff down. That way you're not like running into that problem of, oh, I hit a roadblock.
Right.
Now it's going to be like, oh, I went to this point in the guide, something's not working. What do I do? And then I guess your options of that is to either go try it again by reading it completely, or just try to notify like me or somebody who uses Linux, like me or Ren, and we'll try to, or even Vinny at that point. And people who are like actively using Linux will be like, okay, well, maybe you're not doing this specific thing. Maybe I missed this. Maybe I should put this in the guide. Because the guide's not foolproof.
Right.
It's gonna have its problems. People are gonna make their complaints. People are gonna be like, oh, this isn't gonna work this way. I don't know why it works. Why does it work for you, but it's not for me? It's like, oh, you're probably missing something. You're probably missing something I forgot to put in the guide. And if I could fix that problem, I will put that in the guide. Just everything in the guide is just based on stuff that has worked for me and suggestions I've been getting as well. So that's why it like works. Because like yeah.
It's not at all relevant anymore, but I had a look at some of the Elgato capture cards. The HD60S line works. So the HD60S, S Plus, and HD60X work. Those ones,
I think. I'll go ahead.
I'm pretty sure they work, unless you have something to say otherwise.
I think it's because they don't require you to use the software or install a driver, because you can just plug it in and it will just boot up and work. So I'm pretty certain all the older ones will work too, but the problem with that is they're going to have a significant lag between the audio and video.
Yeah, just get an XL1 Lite. If all you want to do is capture a console, just get an XL1 Lite.
Yeah. Also, another thing, the games that don't work on Linux, just get a console for those games.
Yeah.
You want to play Fortnite? Get a Switch. Honestly, nowadays, getting a Switch is probably your best option for that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, Fall Guys will work, but it's not guaranteed to continue working. If you want to play games that have, anti-cheats that are not quite up to date with Linux yet, or kind of having that problem with Linux, which I don't play those games anyways, or at least very often, just put them on your console. If you want to play Call of Duty, buy a PlayStation 5 if you can afford one.
Yeah, or, like, if you have a the other option is just for those games, you could just have a Windows install. Like, that's also an option. If
But Windows is the devil. We're Linux users. We're not supposed to use that.
Yeah, look, you are right, but there's a lot of people, a lot of Linux YouTubers that actually have a Mac as an editing PC.
Yeah. I mean, Mac is like Unix. It's like baby Linux.
Yeah, it kind of is though. Actually, here's a fun thing about Mac. Yeah. It's actually more Unix than Linux is. There's never been a Linux distro that's been Unix certified, but some of the old versions of macOS have been.
Oh, that's crazy.
To be fair, the certification costs like a lot of money to do, so like Apple can afford it. But regardless, it's always something fun I like to bring up.
Yeah, and also I think like a funny thing is, which is like a kind of like a side note, Capcom really likes Linux on most of their things. Capcom likes people playing on Steam Deck because like Marvel vs. Capcom Collection, it immediately worked. I could play people online. I'm not having an issue other than the matchmaking, being slow, which is like a universal thing right now because Jay Wong is making people refund. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that game's really good. I've never actually played it though.
Oh yeah, it's really good. I love it. I can't wait for the CVS2 collection to come out. So it's probably gonna be very much the same thing. So they're probably all running on the same RE engine. Well, they're the collections. The collections were like they're holding the games. They're probably holding on the RE engine like framework for the menus. And then when you go into the game, you're going into the ROM and whatever save states they have. So I think that's the reason as to why a lot of these games just work on Linux. I've also noticed like a few games that are certified as borked on Linux actually just work on Linux, which haven't been updated on ProtonDB yet, which I should probably do that. Like Mighty Fight Federation. They're like, oh, this game doesn't work. Like, did you try it like with the newest thing? Oh, this is like 8 months ago. Okay. I booted up with the latest Oh, it just booted up. We need to update this stuff.
Yeah, even when a lot of games were fairly low-red, not even just borked, but like bronze and stuff, like, even with fairly recent reviews, a lot of stuff still kind of just worked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's what a lot of people just can't believe because, like, I guess like 10 years ago, maybe it would have been true to
Mhm.
where people were like, "Oh, this doesn't work on Linux. Linux is bad. Maybe you should use Windows." Like at that point, yeah, you'd be right. But now it's like 95% of the games work on Linux, and there's at least 22K games that are running on Linux. So
Mhm.
you have a good ratio, and that's just all on Steam. That's not counting the stuff that's on GOG. That's not counting the stuff that's on Epic Games, which happens to run.
Mhm.
That's not counting some of the games which are hit and miss on itch.io. Um, but like out of all these games, they all run. Because
Mhm.
if they can run them through, if you could somehow get it through running through Proton or find somebody's guide online, you can get it running. Just like if you were to find my guide and run VTube Studio, you'd understand how it works.
I'm trying to find the original announcement for Proton because where there was here we go. I found the original announcement with the
Ah,
original list of games that were
oh my
marked as
god.
supported. Do you know the story behind like why DXVK was made? I always like to tell people this.
Ah, DXVK is something that sounds very familiar.
It's the tool that converts the DirectX calls into Vulkan. It's like a big part of the reason why
Oh yeah,
Proton
that's why
works.
Proton exists.
Yeah, do you
And that's
know
why we have DXVK settings.
why that part of Proton was actually made? Because it's really stupid.
What was it made for?
So the author wanted to play Near Automata. That's the only reason. So he was like,
Thank
"There's
you.
no other way to play it. It doesn't work through Wine. I'm gonna convert DirectX calls to Vulkan and just do it."
Damn. Damn. And then it like snowballed into what we have now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Okay, so the
Thank the
original
Near
list.
Automata person for making VTubing possible.
Yes, it's awesome. He still works on the
Yeah.
project now. He's still the lead developer on it.
Oh,
But
that's cool.
he got employed by Valve. So yeah, which is nice.
Even better.
I do like the
Yeah.
Valve. Like there was the other part of it is the DirectX 9 stuff. That was made by another developer who he was told that there was no possible way to get it done. So he took
Oh.
that as a challenge and just did it.
Oh yeah, then that just works. Yeah.
But sorry, go on.
I didn't mean.
Oh, the original list of games is actually kind of fun. There's a lot of like, there's games that kind of surprised me being on here. Like Beat Saber was on that list. I didn't realize Beat Saber was actually out back then. You have Doki Doki Literature Club, which is very important to be on the compatibility list. Final Fantasy VI. Google Earth VR, my favorite game.
Yeah. I love it. Remember Play on Linux?
Sorry?
Remember there's a program that was like before this, I think, called Play on Linux.
Play on Linux. Yes, the name rings a
Yeah.
bell.
Yeah. They would try to run that through a wine compatibility layer. And a lot of the games that you were running were pirated games that you've somehow found or sourced. Or if you own that game, or if you own the discs as well, you could do it through Play on Linux. Like Play on Linux is still being supported, to my understanding. But right now, it's like it sort of fell off when like Steam was like really going for that Proton, and then the people were doing compatibility stuff. Like Glorious Egg released GE Proton 9-13 with the intention to get it running for World of Warcraft with a new expansion on that when you get that running somehow through Luitris. And with that, I mean, there's also some codes upstream, which I don't know what those codes are, but regardless, you can still use that Proton to like run other games, which is probably what ended up happening when the person was like, "Oh, I want to make Nier Automata run," and somebody was like, "Oh my God, Google Earth VR works! I can't wait! I'm waiting on my life for this." You can now go to vacation at home.
Play on Linux did a lot of things to make Linux gaming easier, but it kind of fell out of favor when like Lutris started showing up. Like that made things easier. Like before Play on Linux, like having to set up Wine manually is a nightmare. So any tool that comes along that makes it easier is very, very nice. And now people use bottles, so Lutris is kind of falling off as well.
I think when I tried to run Linux, I tried to like play Rivals of Aether on it, and then it was like really slow, and I was like, Wine, what are you doing? It was like a long time ago on like an old AMD laptop. that died a horrible death.
It's an AMD laptop, like, you know.
Yeah. One of the things I will say, like people have these complaints toward Linux Mint. But Linux Mint runs the best if you're using all AMD stuff. Like Linux Mint does have support for NVIDIA, which Air Max does show that. 'Cause I watched some of his videos to sort of help me get me going and stuff. So at that point it was like, okay, well I know this stuff works. I know it's not impossible. Let me just go ahead and do it, and then I'm not having very many issues aside of the one I had last night where I lost signal to my monitor, which come to find out I just need to install 2 more fans because I wasn't getting enough air circulation in that gaming computer.
Wait, is that how bad it got? I didn't realize it was.
It got so bad that I was touching the HDMI cord and it got hot, and I was like, I wonder what's going on. I'm like, could this be poor air circulation? Like, I don't think it's a Linux thing because the computer's still running. If it was a Linux thing, the game would have froze, restarted the computer, and I would have been greeted with the login screen, which happened before. But since I have that VRAM fix, because there is a memory leak in Linux Mint right now, which you could fix. There's also a memory leak in Ubuntu right now too, which it just makes sense that way. When you do fix that, it's not going to happen anymore. And which I haven't had like these games crash on me, but for some reason last night I was playing the game, ranting about Linux, and all of a sudden the monitor goes out, and I'm like, what's going on? And I touch the cables, like, oh, these are super hot right now. And I come to the conclusion, I'm like, maybe it's because I don't have 2 fans at the top pulling the air out of it. So I have like a fan in the back and 3 fans in the front, kind of like pushing the air.
Wait, like, were you saying you have no? Wait, so you only had intake?
No, I had like intake fans in the front of the case. And then I only had like 1 outtake fan. And I thought, like, since I previously had a 3060 in it, because it was like it was a lot like smaller, I didn't think it was an issue.
Right.
But this card is massive, and I was like thinking about it, like, oh, I should probably put these other fans on the top so I can kind of pull the air out of it. So I was like kind of wondering. I was like, wait, my streaming PC doesn't have this issue. It's got those fans pulling the air out. It's got the same fan configuration. It's not running into that problem. I'm not having issues on my streaming computer. Like, oh, it's just this computer. And like now when it's like I were to touch the HDMI cables, they're not even hot anymore because the air's circulating right. So just install your fans.
That's usually a good start, yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
You're probably laughing. That's funny.
Yeah, no, when I built my PC, I was like, just put all the fans in there. Just all of them. Doesn't matter. Do I have too many fans? Yeah. Probably.
I have like 4 Noctua fans and 2 generic fans at the top. Yeah.
Didn't want to go buy Noctua fans just to fix the issue. It's just like, screw it. Have these.
Eventually, but those are expensive.
Yeah. Look, if it works, it works. If it's not turning off now, like that's better.
Oh, yeah, like I'll find out tonight when I play a game, but like I think I'll be fine because now there's more air circulation because I'm not feeling any the heat is not as fierce around here in comparison to what it was. I think I just didn't have enough air dissipation. Because at the moment I was like, wait, did I configure something wrong on Linux? I was like, no, the computer's still running. It's not a Linux issue. It's just a me issue.
That's so dumb. How long you had the GPU and you hadn't realized the problem?
Like a week.
Okay, fair enough. I thought it was going to be longer than that.
Well, it might have been longer than that, actually, now I think about it. It might be like a month.
It just hadn't gotten hot enough yet to cause an issue?
I think so. I think that's what happened. Because, like, I didn't have that problem before, and then I just started having that issue. I was like, oh, what do I do? Did the HDMI cord go out? Like, no, it didn't. It's something else.
Yeah, I've certainly had that issue before. Like, one time I was streaming, and I have, like, a HDMI switcher, and randomly it's just like, hey, no, I'm just not going to work anymore. Goodbye. It's like,
yep.
Thank you.
It had to happen with some of my retro consoles on my HDMI switcher, where something would go out and like, why isn't this turning on? What's going on? I'm just like losing my mind, and I'm like, I need to get this working.
I
need it
just
working
gave up and
now.
plugged the HDMI cable straight into the monitor. I was like, I'll deal with this. This is a later problem. I'm
Yeah.
not dealing with it now.
Yeah, I kind of like just had to deal with that. But like there are some issues that people might run into that are like they think it's a Linux issue, but it's actually not.
Mhm.
And that's like a good example
Mhm.
of it not being a Linux issue.
Yeah.
It's just oh fuck, oh no, I I didn't install two fans in here because I didn't account for the big GPU in there, thinking that since it's got bigger fans, it's gonna that's not how it works.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
So one thing I did want to ask you about. So a lot of the people
Yeah.
in my audience aren't like involved. Like there's a lot of people that watch VTubers, but not a
hmm
lot of people that do it. So I was kind of curious to ask about like the software that you actually would be using in this space. I'm sure a lot of people are kind of curious about like what pieces go into this that actually make the whole thing work.
So what I can tell you right off the bat, outside of like if you want it to just work without all the extra stuff,
Mhm,
which the extra stuff's in the guide, you need VTube Studio.
mhm,
You absolutely need that. You absolutely need Face Tracker off of FlatHub.
mhm,
You need the file Densisoft provided people when Ren was reaching out to them at the time
mhm,
for the IP.txt file, and then you need to have Steam. You need to have that in Steam compatibility mode. You need to make sure your computer's up to date. That's like a general thing. You need OBS in order to stream with it. Um, choose the Flatpak or the system package. Your mileage may vary on it depending on your distribution. One thing is usually better than the other depending on what you're doing.
mhm,
Um, you're going to want audio capturing software if you're using more than one computer. If it's just one computer, you might still need that in order to like configure where your audio is going. Because sometimes if you want to play music on stream, if you're not doing it through like a media source, if you're not doing it through like VLC or whatever, you're going to want to make it to where Firefox is being captured via a jack input client.
mhm.
Um, which is, I usually would suggest at least having, Pipewire, the graphical audio bay, the class mixer, which helps you change some things if you were to click on the HD audio generic on it, to sort of like mess with the audio a little bit.
Mhm.
Easy Effects will give you virtual cables. You don't really need to mess with it if you don't know what you're doing with it. But if you need these extra audio cables, it will at least give you two for virtual audio, which you could then route to other applications and have it play through, like have it being routed through the graphical audio interface, which is QPW graph.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, Discord. You can use a Discord Flatpak. If you're wanting audio with screen share, you're probably going to want to use a web app for that. That way you can at least guarantee that that will work. I don't really recommend using any Discord client that is not the system package to Flatpak or the web client, because it's usually against TOS. You don't really want to break that. Um, and you're going to need like Proton. You can either get Proton up QT or you can get Proton Plus
Actually, I wasn't
to
aware of
get
Proton
your
Plus. That you. This is actually something
Proton.
new that I found out about from the guide.
Yeah, Proton Plus is a thing which I found out about it because the person who makes Nobara is, or helped make Nobara, I think is Glorious Eggroll.
Mhm,
Um, they replaced Proton Up QT with Proton Plus.
mhm.
So I mean, because it's a better graphical interface, you can tell which things are going a lot easier.
Right,
You
right.
can just click on it and it works. It works how it's intended to. It's the same thing.
Mhm,
You just get that other option if you want to choose the other thing,
mhm,
depending on what works the best. You're definitely going to need to make sure you configure your system how you would, like at least with OBS, especially like with your audio and everything. Make sure everything's being routed correctly. Make sure people can hear you and see your model. You're going to want to possibly go through the guide, and if you're using Live 2D, um, you're going to want to use a window capture. You're going to want to also make sure you get either a blue, magenta, or green screen, or a sort of green-like screen, or like a green screen-like color. That way you can have your model show up without having any transparency issues, because that can happen. Um, I guess like the only hurdles with that is like if you're doing collabs where somebody has certain things, but you can always change it to a specific color that you can kind of mitigate that.
mhm.
Um, but regardless of that, it still works. Another thing you're going to need to do is you're going to have to go to VTube Studio and adjust some settings. Because what's going to happen is your VTuber's eyes are going to start pointing up for no reason. and the mouth movements might not be correct. And I would suggest going into the guide, going to the PDF file or the Windows document, and see a visual of what I did to get that fixed. Because you have to adjust some values to make sure it's at least showing up correctly without having it turned off. Because my eyes will still move, so like it still works, which is really good. And also adjusting the mouth movements to make them look more natural is probably like a good thing you can do within VTube Studio. You could still use all the VNet network connectivity within VTube Studio on Linux because it interfaces just like any other game that doesn't have anti-cheat that isn't compatible, especially Vanguard. And you're also going to be able to download any of these asset files. The way the folders are structured, at least on the Steam, at least with the system files and maybe even the Flatpak if you were to pull up the .var files, which is basically really similar in with how it gets structured. You can put your streaming assets in there too. Like these assets will work. And you won't be running into those problems after you have everything all set up and running. You can verify that it works. You might run into a few things depending on how your model reacts to some of these settings. They're just a point of reference. They're not like the exact thing, but it's basically a thing to help get people started. Because some people might have more elaborate live 2D models that they do decide to switch to Linux. But I'm going to say it's not impossible because I'm doing it right now.
There's a lot of pieces that go into that.
Oh yeah. There's definitely. I'm smarter than I look.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, people have joked like, "Hey, Brody, you should become a VTuber. You should become a VTuber." Like that's a lot of extra work to do that I don't even particularly want to do right now.
It can be, but it's it's really easy if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm sure it is once you get everything set up.
Oh yeah. Like, if you need help, we can help you with that. But like, yeah, like it just depends on how your audience is going to take it. So, because some people may not like that transition from moving from IRL to VTubing, because I experienced that for a while until people kind of got over it. Yeah.
I'll compromise to do PNG tuber on stream sometimes.
That's actually not a bad idea. Doing PNG, you just need to get VideoTube Mini. Make sure you run it through window capture. And then I guess like the days you don't want to use webcam, you can kind of just use that, or you can use like a Fugitech to kind of get around the whole program. Because Fugitech's also a good option for that because it reads off Discord as long as you're in a call. Yeah. Yeah, I know things. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's just something that people will have to spend the time to at least learn getting done. But you're not going to be spending as much time as you would if you weren't using the guide.
Right. Well, yeah. If the guide is not making things easier, then the guide's not doing its job.
Yeah, which honestly, that does bring up something. If people are going to need a visual guide in the future, Vinny did say Vinny's going to make a visual guide on it, which will end up going through the steps of everything, getting everything working that way. That way, once Vinny has that out, I can link that to the text guide, and we sort of would have a visual. It'd probably be like after prerequisites, after the starting part of it. When you're and after installing your distro, I think I'd probably put it like right before VTube Studio and the whole guide. That way, like people could be like, oh, okay, well this is where this video is linked, and this is where I can kind of like start watching it. That way, people can get that idea, get that visual idea, because there are some people who do not do good at all reading stuff.
Yeah.
And having a visual guide will definitely help them a lot better. Which I'm going to assume when Vinny does it, Vinny's going to go through Arch. If anybody else wanted to make a similar guide, they can as well, and I can link those as well. To get it like up and running. That way we have like all these different versions of stuff. That way you have that compatibility. And that way you're not running into any more walls, and you can sort of slow down the video. Okay, this person, they did this there, we did this there. Okay, now I got it working. That's good. All right, the next thing, like That way they're not continuing to get frustrated with it. Because I think that's where the main problem comes from, is all the information originally was spread out. People weren't finding it. Like, oh yeah, this is cool, you know, but I don't know if I can actually use this. I don't know if it's practical. Well, it is practical enough. You just have to apply yourself to get it done. And you gotta like sort of like make yourself understand stuff that, you know, maybe, you know, the general Windows consumer probably wouldn't have understood at first, but it's not impossible. Like, anybody can do this. It just takes the amount of time and effort that, you know, to get everything else going before you can start going through the guide.
Right.
Because the first step is not, the first step's not, I want to VTube on Linux. The first step is, I want to use Linux.
But yeah, if you can't find yourself feeling familiar using Linux full stop, like, going that extra step, getting the rest of it set up just isn't worth the effort then. Like, just try it out something. Whether it be Mint or Ubuntu or Fedora, Nobara, things like that. Just use that on something, preferably like a machine that you don't really care about, or if you have to, like a virtual machine. Yeah, like if you can chuck it on a laptop, like that's great. But like, don't change your main machine straight away. Like, unless you know what you're getting into and you're willing to have things be broken.
Like, it straight up just took me at least a couple months before I even was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put it on my gaming PC. And it probably took me a little longer to put it on my streaming PC because I didn't know how I was going to handle that. And eventually when I did figure that out, I was like, okay, I got it all working. Maybe I should make a guide on this. And I just, you know, created the guide. I started to reach out to people like Kusabara, Ren. Eventually started getting more people interested, because Vinny originally was going to wait till 2025, and then, you know, I eventually, you know, talking with Vinny, Vinny was like, okay, fuck it, I'm just going to use Linux.
Why 2025?
Huh?
Why 2025?
Because October 2025 is when Windows 10 goes out of it's end of life. Okay. I was like, I'm not waiting, because I was getting anxious. Like, okay, I got my tax return, I'm going to get this GPU, I'm going to put this in here, and I'm like, okay, I'm not waiting till 2025. I'm doing this now. Because prior to that, I was using it on my laptop. Everything was going great there. And, you know, I was like, okay, well, I'm like having a good experience. I'm still having a good experience with it. It hasn't like, I haven't had the issue except that one time with dual booting Windows on a computer, which they screwed that up. I'll just tell you about it. I put Windows and Linux Mint on my computer, right? And I was using Windows to stream a couple times just to see how bad Windows 11 was, which it's really terrible. I go back on Linux Mint to see what it is, and I start noticing the screen was having this problem where it was like sectioning off parts of it, and it was having like this weird graphical error. And I was like, this is really weird. And then eventually I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna reinstall Linux Mint on this. I'm gonna just try to get this to work. And because like to make Windows 11 usable, you have to like do all this other stuff, and it's a way more of a headache than just installing Linux. So like, I don't even recommend 11, because it's just, you lose like 20% of your computer's like computing power for that kind of stuff. It's really bad.
Yeah, last time I used Windows was 10. I don't know anyone in my personal life that's actually swapped to 11. Like, this is a problem that Microsoft has where they've had this issue growing more and more and more, where people are just not going to the next version.
The thing is with that is they are pushing updates to make it like, oh, we're going to update your computer. We're actually taking away updates, because what they did is they started to have vulnerabilities in their systems. They started to have these problems where the systems were going to restart. CrowdStrike vulnerabilities. They were having issues with like a lot of stuff, and it's like, okay, they're trying to force the consumer to go, oh no, I can't use Windows 10. No, I can't do this. I have to install Windows 11 because Microsoft wants me to. I was like, I'm not doing that. Linux Mint is what I'm going to use. Yeah.
So being on Mint, you're on Cinnamon. Have you given a shot to anything Wayland-y? Because I know Venny was trying out Wayland recently. I think Venny swapped Wayland now, yeah?
Evany's workflow completely switched to Wayland at a certain point. I'm still using Xorg.
Mhm.
The only thing I tried to get working on Wayland was Waydroid, and that was a huge ordeal. I don't think Wayland on Cinnamon's ready yet, but
No, no,
Xorg
definitely
on
not on Cinnamon.
Cinnamon,
No, no.
but Xorg on Cinnamon, it just works just fine. I'm not really having problems with it at all. It's like it does what it needs to do.
Mhm.
Um, it's plenty fast for what it is. It's
Mhm.
not like a huge. It's not like it's not like I need like all this extra stuff with my DE. As
Mhm.
long as it works with my computer, it works very similar to how a Steam Deck would work. With how I have my hardware configured, and how all that's going to go with that.
Mhm.
And I'm able to like play my games, not run into any issues. I even stream from it too and record,
Mhm.
even edit videos through like Kdenlive and stuff. It just works how it's intended to work. It's not going to be running into the problem to where, I try to run something and all of a sudden Kdenlive doesn't want to work.
Mhm.
Um, and there are going to be people who run into this problem who are like, I want to install like DaVinci Resolve on it. I want to do all this other stuff. Like, this really just depends on their use case. I don't think my workflow has like changed since moving from Windows to Linux all that much, because I was already using FOSS programs. I was already using stuff like Frida. I've been using GIMP for a while. I've been using VLC Media Player for a while. I've
Does
been using
anyone,
like a lot of these
besides VLC and MPV, does anyone actually use a different video player? Like, I actually don't know.
I mean, they might. It just depends. The VLC is just universally the better one because it works with a lot of these codecs
Mhm.
and with all these encoders, so people won't really run into this problem.
Mhm.
There is a built-in one in some distros that kind of like do their own thing.
A lot of those are MPV skins, so they're not actually their
That's
own thing.
crazy.
Like the one GNOME has, I believe, is an
Interesting.
MPV skin.
Interesting.
But yeah, you're also obviously using OBS because
Yeah.
when was the last time anyone used anything besides OBS? Like, there's the only people using something different are, I know PewDiePie used, what was it, like Fraps?
XSplit.
No,
Oh,
he used Fraps up until like last year or something. So.
Oh, damn. Yeah, I know some people who are like used XSplit for a long time before they switched to OBS.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but I'm just kind of glad that OBS sort of like became like the universal,
Mhm.
hey, let's use this. It
Yeah.
works on pretty much everything right now. And oh yeah, another thing I would really recommend. That way people don't run into problem. Get the OBS VK capture working on your computer. Now the way they have installed it, based on how Glory Sagerrule has configured it,
Mhm.
it's not going to say VK capture on it when in OBS. It's going to say like it's going to say your GPU then VAPI instead of
Mhm.
just straight up VAPI.
Mhm.
Because there's like more than one. And VAPI is the encoder that AMD GPUs tend to use on
Mhm.
Linux, and you're gonna know you're gonna have GStreamer on. If you were to scroll all the way down, you'll see GST. That's GStreamer right there. If you change it to a constant bitrate, put it at like 6,000, and you maybe mess with some other settings, you'll be good. But I wouldn't really recommend messing with the other stuff that you probably don't need to mess with on that. And then if you have the OBS VK capture, it could then, if you use that command,
Mhm.
you could then capture certain programs and like, for example, if you were going to capture 3D applications like these 3D, applications for VTubing,
Mhm.
through bottles that are not connected to Steam, specifically, then they'll work. That way you're able to get that transparency for that going, or even like if it's even just as a game as well. If you're able to do it like that and go through that process of installing OpenVK captures, I think I have it listed in here as well
Mhm.
as one of the prerequisites, because it does make a lot of sense that not everybody has two PCs. They're
Right.
going to still want a game capture and maybe not want a display capture because some people only want to show the game that pops up.
Mhm. Mhm.
And your mileage may vary through Steam, of course, because it may or may not open.
Mhm.
But certain applications can open it up through that. It will appear on there without any issue or hassle at all. You can multi-stream if you use the GStreamer plugin as well.
Mhm.
I remember I tried to use VAPI and then tried to use H.264, and it crashed my OBS. When I started using stuff like GStreamer, and then the X264 for like the other stream, it was fine. You can even just use the GStreamer for both of them, and it will be fine too. Come to find out, which I think I have that set up for my. I think I have that set up for my, or I had it set up for my, like my YouTube as well. So, I mean, it does work, and it does work pretty well once you have it all configured and set up. It's just, it might take you a little bit to sort of configure that. That way, you're not like running into the problem of, oh, why isn't this working? Because you took the time to configure it instead of just trying to throw something at a wall until you see it sticks.
I don't know what my issue with OBS VK Capture's been, but it's been very hit and miss for me, where some games work fine, other games they'll launch, but then it's not capturing anything in OBS, and I don't entirely know why.
It's probably because of the protocols it's using in the game, and something's like not like meshing well with it, and it will like crash. Like Doom should work fine with it. I still, regardless of what distribution you're on or what OS you're on, I still recommend using display capture.
Right.
You just got to make sure you practice not showing information you're not supposed to be showing. Got to make sure you do that.
Yeah.
Don't accidentally dox yourself, but it will all work. You can all run it at 60 FPS, love smooth gameplay. Unless Twitch is throwing a fit, of course. Which it happened. It happens before. I've seen people who had clear streams, all of a sudden bitrate errors are starting to happen. It's not happening on their end. It's actually on Twitch's end.
Yep.
It's just little nuances like that. Regardless, it still just works. And a lot of the things, like especially when it's flat pack or app image or system package, usually out of the box if you have a package manager. For people who don't have package managers, make sure you either like download one that is actually good, or you go to your like AUR, your Fedora equivalent to the AUR, or even whatever Ubuntu has right now. Yeah.
What is that noise? Is your mic falling over or something?
No, I'm just moving my mic.
Oh.
It's kind of creaky a little bit. People question me that on stream sometimes, like, what is that noise? I'm like, it's a ghost.
Yeah, mine doesn't make noise. It just sometimes might fall over if I bump it too much. It seems like it's fine right now, but I need to.
Mine is kind of cheap, but it's also good.
Yeah, I got this off Amazon for $20, so.
Mine's about the same. I had to like replace the base part of mine because it started to get all wobbly and like wouldn't stay in there. So I got a different base for it, and now it just works. But I have this little creaking issue. Probably need to get like WD-40 or something for it.
Yeah, that'll do it. I've been meaning to replace this one. Ren bought a new mic stand ages back. I was just gonna buy the same one that he had. The one I had before this, I tried to move it, but I'd left it in there so long that I guess something expanded and I couldn't separate it anymore. And I bashed it with a hammer and it would not come apart.
That's crazy.
So I was like, nope. Nope, we're going back to the tried and true $20 Amazon Basic stand.
Oh yeah, definitely the Amazon Basic stands. They work if you tighten them up enough.
They might creak a bit, but
yeah, they might do a little creaking, but as long as they hold up, you're good. If not, buy another one for $20.
I think they've gone up a bit. Sadly, they're not $20 anymore, which means you gotta spend a little bit more money. Yeah, I know.
The inflation. That's another good reason to switch to Linux. Why would you pay $114 for Windows when you can get the majority of your stuff working on Linux for free?
Well, a lot of you
trying to save It's like I'm in the alley trying to save a buck. Want to get some Linux?
Honestly, who pays for Windows anyway? Like that's the true thing.
I know I didn't after a while. I was like, I'm not paying for this shit, and I started using a terminal to like do what I got to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Some good stuff.
Well, when Windows 8 came out, they had like the media creation tool and all that sort of stuff.
Oh no, not that.
So you didn't
the media creation tool.
Yeah, you didn't need to pay for it anyway. So I don't know. Yeah.
So like the general consensus right now, from what I'm seeing from people, you know how like they try to like push, oh, you need to buy a key, you need to buy a key, even though you can just use it perfectly fine, and they'll just show a little watermark.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
could disable the watermark.
Yeah, isn't
You
there
know,
just... My understanding is it's just a registry edit for it. Like, it's just a
it's
one-line
just a
thing.
registry edit. You can
Yeah.
disable the watermark, or you can go through the process of finding a specific tool online, which I will not say what it is, and just unlocking it. And that's what I did, so I was not going to pay for it. Shit's too expensive. You can get a key off Kingwin, but most of those keys are not. They can disappear at any moment.
Right.
So, when you're getting yourself into that situation, especially with like Windows, it's not really worth it paying for a key.
Yeah. Yeah, like, just use Linux.
Just use Linux.
Just try it out. See what it's like.
Oh yeah, just use Linux, definitely. I do think like at some point they're going to, like with Windows 12, is what people are speculating, and I'm sure you heard this multiple times. It's gonna go to a subscription-based service. You're gonna have it's gonna like maybe not use your whole computer. As far as like the components go, we don't know all the specifics for that. But if they want you to pay for Windows, they're going to make you pay for it, or you can't use your computer. It's basically running off a cloud, which is what they're beta testing with Windows 11 when they're taking your whole computer, taking snapshots of it, putting it to their cloud, which is maybe not encrypted, and just kind of just doing that as well.
I would not be surprised. Like, maybe they have... Yeah. What they would do is like have a free tier where they have a bunch of ads in it, and then have the... Like, even more explicitly than they do already, because they already have a bunch of ads floating around the system, and then have like an Adobe style sub to it. Maybe not full Adobe where they get themselves sued by having the cancellation fee, but...
Oh yeah, that was a... You just don't renew at that point. You don't cancel. You just make sure, hey, can you block this? You just don't do that.
So... What would it do? So there are those companies that will sell like, or they'll give you like access to temporary credit cards. You can say, I want this specific limit on it. What would Adobe do if you use one of those to sign up and then cancel and just didn't pay?
Well, let's just assume that the card company... Look, actually, I feel like Adobe might actually have fail-safes against that, because they might be able to, like, oh, you can't use a prepaid card. Because if you get one of those cards and you cancel it, that's technically a prepaid card. So they might just, like, take whatever money's on it, or they might just cancel it and just not even acknowledge you bought it. And the key is just invalid or something.
Maybe.
Another problem outside of Adobe is before they got their shit backlashed, Logitech was like, what if you release a subscription-based mouse? And everybody was like, no, we don't want that. And I was like suggesting, hey, why don't you just go get like a Warrior mouse or a SteelSeries mouse? You'll be fine.
I'm a big fan of Logitech. I've got my Logitech keyboard here. I've got a Logitech mouse here. I've got a G600 here, my MMO mouse. I've been a Logitech fan for a while. They've been doing some weird things, like the there was the Logitech AI mouse as well a little while back, where they had the only AI thing about it is it had a button on it that said AI, and it would, if you click the button, it opened like a Chat GPT GUI.
That's crazy.
You could just configure that on any Logitech mouse in their software. Like, it wasn't specific to this mouse, but for whatever reason, they just market it as AI mouse. It was during that period where every single company was releasing something AI related.
Oh yeah, people were like hopping on AI, which I don't really like. AI has its uses, like in like video games have been like, it's been like a while, but those are like programmed by humans. Let's just hope that doesn't change. Some AIs are good for like neurotechnology, for like prosthetics and stuff. I think that's fine, but like when you're starting to use AI to steal people's art, music, likeness, like there's some cursed videos online, of course, but this really just depends on what somebody's motive is. The main one that like took a big hit was definitely art and music.
Yeah.
I do have Logitech keyboards. I have a League of Legends Logitech keyboard. I'm not playing League of Legends. Dota 2 actually has a better cash shop, so you get that. And I have a G502, and this is the reason why this is why VTubers buy the G502. Let me do this real quick.
Okay.
That's why they buy it. That's why the G502 did so well.
The infinite scrolling. Yeah. What do they call it? I don't know, like the free scroll. Free scroll. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the free scroll.
Very important feature.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a feature because people like using it for their VTuber models to get them to spend fast.
I had one of the original G502s. I haven't had one in a long time though.
I have the one that's a wired.
Yep. The G502 is a really nice mouse though. I should get another one.
Oh yeah. For my Linux computer, I have a Warrior keyboard, which is like it's like a hot pluggable, like the keycaps are hot plug. I mean, like the sockets are.
Yeah, the switches.
They're all mechanical. Yeah. And then I have like a SteelSeries mouse that I use because this is gonna probably last like 60 years.
That's one of the things that is kind of annoying under Linux, configuring mice. Finding software where you actually can do it is...
Yeah.
With Logitech stuff, you can use Piper, and there's a couple of other companies that you can configure reasonably well, but...
Yeah,
like, luckily, modern mice have, like, memory on them, so as long as you get them configured, you're gonna be fine, but if you need to change anything after the fact, like... Find a Windows PC to plug into it and do it like that, I guess.
Like, there's a thing for keyboards or computers, like it's like something like OpenRGB or something, to where you're able to configure the keyboard's lights and stuff, and as well as your computer's lights if that's configurable. But like if you're on Linux, if you're needing something with high DPI, just find something that has a button on it and just go to the highest DPI and just use that. That's what I do.
That's one way to do it. Yeah.
I don't want to mess with any software. It's gonna mess me up. This is already high enough DPI for me.
What do you run at?
Huh?
What do you?
I run at 60 hertz. 60 hertz.
No, DPI.
DPI?
Yeah.
What's the DPI on this?
You said it's high, so I'm kind of curious how high.
It's the max setting on the SteelSeries Rival 3.
Oh no, SteelSeries Rival 3.
Yeah, it's not bad mouse. It's really good. My Warrior mouse was kind of like having issues with its middle click, but yeah.
I don't know if the max setting that's pre-configured is going to be the max that it is, but it says 8500.
That's plenty.
Yeah, it's plenty. Yeah, you are right there.
Yeah. The G502 has a higher one. I think it's like 12K or something.
I use 1200.
I like to have high DPI on my mouses because it just feels better. I don't want to like have a sluggish mouse. Like, imagine if I'm VTubing and I'm just like it's just taking forever to like do something.
I like being able to aim at things. That's my.
There is a glitch with the G502 that it will somehow reset itself back to its original setting if just press the button a few more times. So you can start using it again.
The G600 does the same thing.
Oh yeah, I mean it's an easy fix, and it's not like a huge issue.
Yeah, I think that's just a general. I don't know if it happens on Windows, but it definitely seems like a general Logitech issue on Linux.
I should like put an Amazon link to the G502 or its variant. Like, hey, if you want to spin really fast, put this in. You get this mouse. It's vital.
I don't know why more companies don't do that. Maybe Logitech has some sort of patent on a free scrolling wheel or something, because it seems like such a basic thing to add.
It's really good. Like, I mean, I guess the only free scrolling wheel you're gonna have with that is if you get yourself like a trackball. The Logitech trackballs.
My keyboard does have a free scrolling volume wheel, so I could bind it to that as well.
Oh damn! Yeah, that could be a thing. Yeah. Yep.
I don't have a use for it, but I actually had never thought of that as like a reason to have the free scrolling wheel like that.
Yeah. Use it for VTubing, or if you're watching, or if you're reading a really long Wikipedia article.
Yeah. I like to use the middle mouse click for doing that at least, but
yeah.
But hey, if it works, it works, I guess.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like like Linux is easy if you are willing to use it.
Mm-mm.
If you're not willing to use it, you're still stuck in the process of, oh, I want to use Windows stuff on here. It's like, let's hope you find alternatives, or it won't last very long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
and yeah.
Go on.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, since we're like 15 minutes from the end, do you want to talk about the Twitch's seemingly dislike of VTubers right now?
Oh my god, I quote tweeted this. I was like, this is not good.
Mm-hmm.
So Twitch is having this problem to where they're going around to VTuber streams, right?
Mm-hmm.
They may not be showing anything at all, and they will like, oh, they're gonna hit you as a sexual content warning, right? Like there has to be somebody at Twitch, which a lot of people are suspecting this.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody at Twitch or a group of people at Twitch are like bonking people, getting them banned for no reason. They have to put in appeals. They're losing income streams for that. Like Zentreya, one of the bigger Shoujo VTubers, got hit with a content warning for having a fucking bikini. Like, are you like really? Like,
yeah, and then you look at the pools and hot tubs categories, like,
oh yeah, like,
really? That's the reason?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, like why are you playing favorites here? Like you got people who are using models that they're using to express themselves on your streaming platform, and you are stifling their creativity by putting in these arbitrary rules that are not being followed by people who are not using VTuber models. And whenever you did try to let up on those rules, you had a bunch of people whine about it, which is stupid. You should have just turned the other cheek and go, oh yeah, whatever. But like it's just ridiculous because like if you're having imagine somebody's making a VTuber design for Twitch, right? And it has to follow within certain guidelines, but it would look better if it didn't. Twitch is then stifling that creators and artists' creativity when it comes to that. Nianers, when they were streaming, doing their whole Final Fantasy stream, during the whole subathon. Well, Twitch was kind enough to let them do their subathon so they get money out of it. Then they banned them. And it didn't even really show that much. Like I thought these people on Twitch were adults. Like if you're an adult, you're not gonna have a problem with this. And yeah, some of this stuff should be better moderated because some of it is borderline OnlyFans content, and the other sites as well. But at the end of the day, like if you're gonna go ahead and start bonking us for doing anything, like Thursday I'm playing Senran Kagura, Shinobi Versus, and I played the entire Burst Renewal on Twitch. I didn't really have an issue, but if I do get bonked, I'm gonna know it's somebody at Twitch doing it, and then at that point, it's gonna boil down to look at all these VTubers who are getting bonked for this stuff, getting these warnings. Well, Twitch, you have a category for Senran Kagura. You have a category for hot tubs and beaches. If a VTuber is wearing a bikini and they may not be wearing it IRL, you don't know that. But if you're doing it on on VR chat or doing it through the 3D software and they're wearing a bikini and you're bonking them for sexual content, why aren't you doing that to other people who are not VTubers?
The one that I saw that was really stupid recently, there was an artist who was working on a model. They turned off the layer that had the dress on, so it was just like the bikini. Yeah. And they got I don't think they got suspended for that, but it was just a warning. It's like you have an art category, and it wasn't it wasn't like when they did the whole like genitals are okay, and everyone went wild with it. It wasn't like that.
Live. I was like, oh no, what are these people doing with this power? You're not supposed to do that.
Like it wasn't, there were people that got bogged during that, like Annie, who was, I think she had wasn't she drawing like a Fuda picture or something on stream?
I know, I saw some wacky shit on there, and I was like,
but it wasn't that. It was just
going too far with this.
It was just a model with a bikini that had a layer turned off. The layer had a dress on. It's just why do you even allow people to do art on your platform if that's gonna get someone any warning whatsoever?
Yeah, and to my understanding, like, yeah, like it pretty much just falls with like, yeah, Twitch is stifling people's creativity. Like, it's not going to happen on Trovo, it's not going to happen on Rumble. It may not happen that often on YouTube, but it can still happen.
Mhm.
But on Twitch, it seems like it happens the worst, where they say one thing and do another. As far as I was aware, if you're drawing something and you're a VTuber model artist, and your VTuber model you're showing on stream is basically a representation of yourself that is currently being active and alive, while you're working on basically something that's not alive yet. That's pretty much considered a piece of art, and it shouldn't be based on an admin's feelings. It should be based on the facts. And if that is being not translated well from the Twitch TOS, the Twitch TOS is pretty much saying, "Oh yeah, you can do art streams and stuff. You know, if it's just for art and you're not focusing on a specific thing, well, that person's focusing on drawing the art. They're not focusing on showing the bikini off. Like, Twitch literally has. I'm gonna say it. Like, Twitch has their head up their ass.
Yeah.
They need to get it out." Yeah.
I know some people like to talk about this as like a reason for it. Have you seen the clip of I think it was Dan Clancy on a podcast, and they're going through like the Twitch recommended, and it was just like bikini, 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 bikini.
I don't think I saw that, but I remember one time, like a couple years ago, where somebody was like, "Oh, I thought I was using OnlyFans," and they had like everything out on Twitch. They got banned for a day, unbanned. But yet, a VTuber, if they do something like a little bit, they get banned for like a month.
Yeah, there's been people that have gotten banned for like a day or a week who like just straight up had sex on stream.
It's crazy because these like it's nothing against like the actual streamers who are doing it. Like, they know what they're doing. But at that point, it pretty much just boils down to Twitch's discretion, which is why I made a tweet earlier. Okay, here are your alternatives to these bigger streaming companies. Like, they may not be the best alternatives, but they are alternatives. Like, for Twitch, it's Trovo. Like, Trovo's like a popular streaming site. It's, it's a little bit like Twitch in a way. Then you also have like Rumble, which is basically another YouTube at that point. I don't really know what is on Rumble, but if you get on there, you might see stuff on there, and it's not. I don't think it's like horrible, but it's this really just depends what people's preferences are. And then I guess for like I mean like Twitter, you got Blue Sky and Mastodon. If people can understand Mastodon instances, I mean Twitter would already be cooked.
If you can understand Twitter, you can understand Blue Sky. It's literally the same.
Oh yeah, Blue Sky is a Mastodon instance. It's just a more sectioned off Mastodon instance. Yeah.
Like,
Blue Sky.social is a big giveaway.
Like, at the end of the day, the only thing, like, the thing that really matters is consistency, right? Like, if they want to say no sexual content whatsoever outside of the context of a video game, right? Like, if they want to, like, I think everyone would be okay if they were like, okay, no lewd models, no, like, bikinis, nothing like that. Only have lewd content in the context of a game. So if you're playing, like, The Witcher and Geralt's, like, dick is on the screen, that's fine. If you're playing Baldur's Gate 3... Yeah.
or Senran Kagura, which, honestly, there's a thing about that. The reason why Senran Kagura is allowed on Twitch, like, the reason why those games are allowed, as long as you're not doing, like, any of the intimacy stuff, which I skip that anyways. I'm just trying to play a Dynasty Warriors game with extra stuff going on. And basically, the developer reached, because I got banned originally in 2015. The developer reached out and was like, "What are you doing? I want these people to stream this game." And Twitch was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my bad." And now all the categories are on Twitch. I can't wait to see how misconstrued that is whenever I get my sexual content warning on Thursday or Friday, one of the two.
Yeah, God of War's another one. Like, the classic God of War is another one that just has like a bunch of sex scenes in it. That I actually hadn't played the God of War games before. That's like, oh, okay, sure. There is a sex mini game in the first 3 God of War games to get like a bunch of upgrade material.
Yep, it happens at the beginning of the game. I think another one's in the palace, and I think you could do it at least more than once in 3.
Yeah.
It's
and then there's games like Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, 100%. Just like Twitch was originally like, because Twitch is getting paid by these developers in order to like, initially when these games are coming out, that way they can be like, oh, my game has sexual content in it. I want these people to stream it. So if you're okay with that, and then then you see somebody getting railed on The Last of Us, and people start going, oh, okay, well, if that's okay, then what's going on with these VTuber models?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't. And then there was a couple of days ago. There was when Shondo got banned, and like that was just a mess
Oh,
where she just had a couple of
oh
drinks on
yeah.
stream and like you need to seek mental help, so we're going to ban you. Like what?
I just feel like the Twitch admins on the site that became like there's some admins that are good that will like unban pretty much anybody. There's some that will keep people banned and say no, you can't be unbanned or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What they're not realizing is, hey, these are these people's income streams. You
Mm-hmm.
are making money off of them too. They're taking a cut for reasons they want to stream on your site. If you're continuing to bonk them, they're probably not going to stay on your site very long, and they might switch to your competitor, YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Because Truro is not really a competitor; it's more like an alternative if
Right.
you do
Right.
want to continue like multi-streaming, for example. But like, YouTube is the main competitor there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're pushing people away from your site, you're going and you're having people go to YouTube so they can actually stream their content to their audiences, so that they can actually have a good time streaming their content to their audiences, no matter if they're running, Windows or Linux. It's then going to run into that problem to where, oh, it's Twitch just needs to say it. No VTubers on Twitch, and they're like, okay, all right, we'll just stream on other sites then. We'll go to other sites. You're gonna lose all the money you had with all these deals with VShojo and Hololive as well. Hopefully, if it was worth it, if they ever decide to go that route. But it seems like they're silently kind of doing that. They're knocking people for no reason. They're knocking bigger indie VTubers for no reason as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much a problem that I've noticed. Every time I've seen a VTuber getting knocked for this, that I've maybe talked to or had an interaction with, and I think that they probably shouldn't have been banned. I always at Dan Clancy, I always at Twitch and Twitch support, and they usually get unbanned after that because Dan Clancy probably looked at it and he's like, "Why is this person banned? What's going on?" Like I don't think Dan
No,
Clancy. I
it's
don't think
funny to laugh
I do
about him
not
like having just nothing but bikini
yeah
models in his recommendations, but
like
it's not going that high up. There's got to be like a
yeah.
couple of admins that just don't like VTubers.
There people just have a personal vendetta against VTubers. Like I don't think Dan Clancy has that issue, and I hope he doesn't. Because he committed he did a VTuber stream before with Code Miko.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, Komika also does IRL stuff too, so
Well, didn't he
that
do
might be a little
something with
different.
Fillion a while back as well?
Oh yeah, he did do something with Philly a while back, and that's just straight up a VTuber.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't think he's the one that has that issue. I think there are people in the company that have that problem, and it's starting to become more apparent the more we're seeing more sexual content warnings to go out. Now, if Twitch was more transparent with how they did their TOS,
Mm-hmm.
if they're like, okay, this is what it is, there are no variations of this, directly what I'm saying, don't try to find a loophole or you'll get banned. They need to be very direct with this kind of stuff and more transparent.
Mm-hmm.
They also need to also not make it to where people are like going, oh, why did I get banned? They have their lawyers contact them and they just don't tell them anything.
Well,
Like, what's going to stop somebody from going to Twitch headquarters, filing a subpoena, and then requesting that information? Are they going to refuse it? If not, they can go to court.
Well, the dumb thing is, like, half of these bans, they happen, and then, like, it's hard when it's the small VTubers, but when it's one of the big ones, and they just start adding them on Twitter, it's like, oh, we unbanned you. It's like, well, so they did nothing wrong? Like, what, what do you mean?
Like what's going on? Like, are you going to clarify? Oh, I'm sorry, this was a bug in our bot. We're going to go ahead and fix this. They don't even clarify that. That's basic.
I have a feeling that Twitch does it, not to the extent of WoW, for example, but Twitch does take in mass reports as like a sign to just ban someone without thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah, and that does happen because there are people going around Twitch rating people and banning them. There was somebody who also got hit by that, saying that, hey, I got I got rated in my Discord. They were saying bad words that are, not the typical ones that are acceptable. And they were also they were also spamming my chat.
Mm-hmm.
And Twitch's response was, "Oh, we gave you the sexual content warning because of the person you were using the Fuji tech. They had like a really inappropriate profile picture. Like it's probably not what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's covering up for somebody because it doesn't add up."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
like I've been streaming on Twitch for like 8 years, 4 years as a VTuber, 4 years before that. Like I've I've been on Twitch since Justin TV. I've noticed how this has evolved. I've been streaming since 2016. Like it's very like it has changed to the point to where it got like, oh, this site's getting really good. Oh no, this site's getting really bad, which usually happens with a lot of popular sites. Oh, this site's starting to get good again. Now it's getting bad. Now it's getting good. Now it's getting bad. Now it's really bad right now. It's getting a little bit good. And now it's like sort of okay, and now we're having issues again. Like what this they have to be more consistent. They need to make sure that they're not banning VTubers for no reason. These have to be legitimate reasons. If you start getting 3,000 mass reports from some random people that are not even following them, then or had just followed them within the past day or two, then maybe you should probably look into that rather than banning them. Should be like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and do it. This is a horrible example. Before Twitch had a thing where they had unbannable people whenever that got leaked. And one of them was like, I think it was like Rice Gum or whatever, where he kept getting false reported. And, or when, oh, she this time, but whenever she got false reported, and, yeah, they wouldn't ban them after that. And there are some people who just get banned so they can get boosted too. Like they know that. Like people have been banned like 18 times, but when you ban this other person 4 times, they're gone forever. It's just it's a big mess. They need to fix it.
I don't think they're going to. I don't think anything's going to change.
The only thing that's going to fix it is if a bunch of people get fed up, a bunch of these companies start pulling out. They're like, hey, VShojo, Hololive, it was fun being with Twitch, but we're going to go ahead and go to YouTube and this other site, Billy, and we're just going to run off those sites for now. And, if you ever change your mind, that's great. But I feel like that's probably what's going to head at some point. And then Twitch is going to be even more hot water because Twitch is bleeding money right now. And it's bad. Yeah, like they can barely afford, they couldn't even afford to keep Korean streamers on there. And Kick had to scoop them up.
The Korean streamer things being the Korean streaming words are hard. The Korean streamers being removed is obviously bad, but there was a lot of ridiculous content that came out of that when they were like, we can't make money here anyway, like let's just push the rules as much as possible.
Oh yeah, they definitely did. And Twitch did, which to my surprise, I don't think they banned any of them because they knew they were leaving anyways. But like it was like, yeah, at least one of the good things Kick did was say, hey, we're going to go ahead and take you from them, to make sure you still get paid.
Yeah.
Because it sucks. It sucks. Hopefully Twitch can get back into the green. They can start making their content policies better for VTubers. But right now, it just seems like it's very hit and miss with a lot of things that they're doing. Like they're introducing stuff like another controversial thing with like the Nox. They have it off by default now, but it used to be opt-off. Now it's opt-in.
Yeah, and wasn't it like turning people's cameras on by default?
Yep. Yeah. It was going through your camera settings and turning it on. I'm pretty certain that was like a Windows thing. I'm not sure if people had it configured. To my understanding, before Omega shut down, that's probably what the people who had their stuff already configured to have that set up.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because I don't think a lot of people have their webcams connected to their web browser. Unless they unless they click allow and they're I'm doxing myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because your browser probably, on pretty much anything else, your browser would ask you now. Yeah. So unless
you've been using the same OS used on sites like Omegle or if you've had that on there before, which Omegle doesn't exist anymore, and rightfully so. But unless you had that on there, you would have to click allow in order for that to happen. If not, I keep that stuff off by default. It's favorites or nothing on there. I don't want that feature because they're releasing features other than fixing their site. We don't want features. We want you to fix your site, be more transparent, and actually tell people why they got banned so they can fix it.
Yeah. Twitch is.
Yeah.
Actually,
Worst case scenario.
I love
Worst case
the
scenario, yeah,
so I was gonna say I love the Twitch,
yeah.
the person from Twitch who was responsible for the feature who was like getting angry that people didn't want it. It's like they're like, well, none of you people want to collab anyway. I'm trying to make it easier to have collab features. Like, this is not it.
It's not how you do it.
no.
We have Discord. What do
Yeah.
we need that shit for? I don't want that's so invade like before there's like another version of it as well that they had before they got rid of it. That's where you're like you would capture a certain part of your screen and you would
Mm.
show it on somebody else's stream. And like they're releasing the same feature but like making it worse.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just need to depreciate all the features people don't want
Mm-hmm.
and put the features people want, which are quality of life stuff. They want their site to work. They want to make sure they have at least 4K viewing experiences, which hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think it did happen recently with the whole. Yeah, it did happen recently. Actually, this is very recent. The encoder got upgraded on Twitch.
Yeah, they
So
added
people can
AV1 at
use
the start of the
advanced.
year.
Yeah, they can use AV1 now, so that way they can stream in 4K, which is good. It's one of the good things Twitch did, but they're also doing a whole bunch of bad things on the side. Like you got to be transparent with people. You got to tell people why they got banned. If you're not telling people that, and you're being really snarky in somebody's comments towards somebody, have to finally get it out of you,
Mm-hmm.
like they did with that one person. Like, oh, it's because you had a Fuji Tech person. Like, why wasn't that in the report? Why wasn't that presented to them the first time until they had to jump off through all these hoops just to find out that, oh, that was the issue. And it's probably not even the issue. You're probably not even telling them the right thing. You're probably misleading them. Probably be like, oh, we're Twitch, we fucked up. Oh, I'm sorry, it was your Fuji Tech. And the person's like, how? Literally, how?
We probably should wrap this up. Before we go before we just keep talking forever.
I'm going deep.
Yeah.
I can talk forever.
Well, let people know where they can find you. And I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but I absolutely adore your website.
Thank you.
Your
Thank you.
website is ridiculous. I'm gonna show it now.
Oh yeah.
It looks like something straight out of like GeoCities and things like
Oh
that.
yeah, I mean, it's NeoCities.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I'm KYLONEK0. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on YouTube as well. I have like a VOD channel as well, but you're better off finding me on Twitch. With twitch.tv/just KYLONEK0. You can type it in lowercase, and you'll see me pop up there. I stream on Linux. I use Linux all the time now. It is now my daily driving computer that I used, and I'm able to get everything running pretty good. Probably even better than Windows, and I really have like no issue with that. You can also find me on Twitter with KYLONEK0. I have, instead of the O at the end, there's a 0.
Yes,
So it's at KYLONEK0.
There actually is an
because
account called KYLONEK0. It's for a cat, so make sure you go to the
it's for a
correct one.
cat.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not the cat. Okay, I am a cat VTuber, but I'm not the cat. When I do my face reveal, I'll show you what I look like though. It may or may not be a cat though. Which will happen for like a long time from now, because I don't know where to find a lightweight cat yet. Because they are very rare to find. But yeah, you can find me in those areas. I do upload content to YouTube as well. I upload a VOD channel, which I do update every now and then with like thumbnails and stuff. So I want to keep things consistent. As well as a main YouTube channel, which I may not upload that much there, but I do edit a video every now and then and upload it. Either a video with like starting to do like these tutorial kind of videos, or I might just do a funny video because I live in 2008.
I can tell from the website.
Yeah. The website's good. I love
the
it.
website's more like 1998.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like if you go to KYLONEK0.net, you're gonna see a bunch of VTubers I recommend, and also people I know as well. As well as I need to update the site section. I need to pay for PineGrow on Linux because SiteLex is not working. But once I get that done, I can then like rework the site into maybe like it's gonna probably have it's gonna have the same aesthetics, but it's gonna be like a little bit easier to navigate some stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I love the cards you have for the artist section though as well. Like these are these are incredible.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's where I got my artist. That's where I did my artist credits. For a lot of people. The rest of the credits are in my Twitch. Under the credits section. Yeah, but that goes directly straight to either their Ko-fi or their Twitter, because they have been vetted and they are trustworthy enough to get your stuff from. Like, you know, it's pretty good.
Is there anything else you want to mention, or is that pretty much it? Oh, where
I think
can people find the guide? That's probably should mention that.
So you could find the guide. I have it actually pinned on my Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the guide is pinned on my Twitter. You could find it. When you go to my Twitter, you're going to see where the VTS Pog video is at, but below that is going to be where the guide is at. And it will take you directly to either the Google Docs version of it, or you could find the updated guide if you scroll down even further to where it takes you to the Codeberg for that as well. And I hope this is going to be in the description.
I'm definitely it will be added to the description. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it'll be a lot easier to find it through this.
Okay. Yep. Is that pretty much it?
It's just it's a miracle all this works, honestly.
Hey, well, it probably wouldn't have worked a couple of years ago, but
oh, it definitely wouldn't have.
Yeah,
it definitely wouldn't have.
Things have gotten a lot better.
For hours too. For a little bit, I was. Are you done recording?
Oh no, not yet. I'll do my outro and then we'll do that.
Okay. I didn't know. I will say like for like a while, I was just like just trying to get this working, and it just works. I was like, oh, I need to make people aware of this. I need to put all this information in one space, in one spot, so where they're like, now I don't have to fuck. now I don't have to spend so much time.
Yeah.
Finding all of these like resources when they're all in one spot.
Right.
I do recommend, if you do have a Codeberg and you are interested in helping out, go ahead and make a fork and see what changes need to be made to it on the specific section. I'll take that section and I will make my adjustments to it as well whenever we cross that path.
Sweet. Cool. Yep. As for my stuff, my main channel is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos there 6-ish days a week. I've got the gaming channel Brody on Games. Right now I'm probably I'll still be doing Black Myth, and I'll probably have moved into Kingdom Hearts 0.2, I reckon. If you're listening to the audio version of this, you can find the video version on YouTube at Tech Over Tea. You can find the audio version on pretty much any podcast platform. There is an RSS feed, so put it in your favorite app and you'll be good to go. I'll give you the final word. How do you want to sign us off?
I usually scream before we sign off.
Go right ahead.